Finally, I want to update you on the issue of the portions of video missing from a press briefing here on the 2nd of December 2013. Now, as you know, this is something we've talked about before. I promised you that I would update you when we had completed our review. We've done that, so if you'll bear with me, I'll give you what I have. As you know, when this matter came to light, many of us, including Secretary Kerry, had concerns and questions as to how and why this had happened. And so, at the Secretary's request, the Office of the Legal Advisor spent the last several months looking deeper into the issue. All told, they have spoken with more than 30 current and former employees at all levels of seniority, and they've gone through emails and other documents to see what information might be available. They've now compiled their findings and a description of their process into a fact-finding review, which has been provided to the Secretary. We're also sharing it today with Congress and the Inspector General. Here's the bottom line. We are confident the video of that press briefing was deliberately edited. The white flash that many of you have noticed yourselves in that portion of the video is evidence enough of human involvement. Indeed, a technician came forward, recalled making the edit, and inserting that flash. What we were not able to determine was why the edit was made in the first place. There's no evidence to suggest it was made with the intent to conceal information from the public. And while the technician recalls receiving a phone call requesting the edit, there is no evidence to indicate who might have placed that call or why. In fact, throughout this process, we learned additional information that could call into question any suggestion of nefarious activity. In addition to the fact that the full video was always available on Divots and that the full transcript was always on our website, the video was edited in a choppy manner, which made it obvious that footage was missing. We also found that the video likely was shortened very early in the process, only minutes after the briefing concluded, and well before the technician who recalled making the edit believes the request was made to make the edit. And in any event, before the technician would have been involved in the video production process. It is possible the white flash was inserted because the video had lost footage due to technical or electrical problems that were affecting our control room servers around that time. Finally, we have confirmed that even if the video was edited with intent to conceal, there was no policy in place at the time prohibiting such an edit. So upon learning that, I think you know, I immediately put a policy in place to preclude that from ever happening. We will also be consulting now with the National Archives and Record Administration about whether any changes to our disposition schedules should be made to address the press briefing videos. Disposition schedules are rules governing the official record keeping. The current disposition schedule notes that the written transcript is a permanent record. Now, I understand that these results may not be completely satisfying to everyone. I think we would all have preferred to arrive at clear and convincing answers. But that's not where the evidence or the memories of so many employees about an event which happened more than 2.5 years ago have taken us. We have to accept the facts as we have found them, learn from them, and move on. The Secretary is confident that the Office of the Legal Advisor took this task seriously, that they examined it thoroughly, and that we have indeed learned valuable lessons as a result. For my part, I want to thank them as well for their diligence and professionalism. We are, and I think we will be, going forward, a better public affairs organization for having worked our way through this. With that, take questions.
All right. Well, before we move on to Syria, let's finish up this videotape episode, or at least dig into it a little bit more. Can you remind me, just from that lengthy statement, you think it was not nefarious because it was done badly and because it was done quickly? Is that the essential argument?
I said that we aren't sure whether it was done with intent to conceal or whether it was done as a result of a technical problem. The bottom line is, Brad, it was inconclusive. Some of the additional information that does lead us to think that a glitch is possible here is because of the choppy nature of the cut, which is when we do daily briefings, we always cut the top and the bottom, right? So we have an ability to do editing on at the beginning and the end of a briefing. Obviously, we have to do that. And we have procedures in place to do that in a nice, smooth, clear, very deliberate way, so that when we post the video of today's briefing, it looks like a totally encompassed, very professional product. So we have the ability to do this in a very professional way. This cut was not done that way. It was done in a choppy fashion that's not consistent with the way we typically do that. I'm not saying that means for sure it was the result of an electrical problem. I'm just saying that it certainly gives us pause, and we have to think about that. The other aspect of this is the timing. So roughly 18 minutes after the briefing was concluded, the video that was uploaded was shorter than the actual briefing itself, which would convey that a cut of some kind was made very, very quickly after the briefing, sooner than when the technician remembers, much sooner actually, than when the technician remembers getting a phone call asking for the cut to be made. So again, we may be dealing with a memory issue. Maybe that's inconsistent, or maybe there was there could have been a technical problem that caused the video to automatically be shortened when it was first uploaded so quickly, 18 minutes after the briefing, which is pretty fast. So it's not impossible or inconceivable that there was an intent to conceal information. In other words, nefarious intent here. We're not ruling that out. But we also cannot, based on the evidence that we have gained, rule out the possibility that there was some technical problem, and then to make it known that a cut had been made, a white flash was inserted.
But there were no technical problems on the other videos that still exist.
Right, but they don't.
If that were the case, don't you think someone would come and admit that, rather than nobody of the 30 witnesses you interview can actually remember what happened? It seems like such a ridiculous explanation. It shocks me that you're actually providing it here. But okay.
Okay, is that a question, or you just want to berate me?
Well, no, John, I just think it's really strange that you're saying that. I think someone would remember if it were a technical glitch. And how could you say there's a technical glitch, there's a possibility of that, when there's no other evidence of those glitches on the other videos that exist?
I'm saying I can't rule it out, Justin. There's also no evidence that anybody did this with a deliberate intent to conceal. We just don't know. And I understand. Look, as I said at the end of my lengthy statement, that I understand that the inconclusive nature of the findings is not going to be all that satisfying to you. It wasn't all that satisfying to the rest of us. You don't think that we would like to know exactly what happened, but we just don't. They interviewed more than 30 current and former employees. They looked at emails and records, and there simply wasn't anything to make a specific conclusion here.
Let's put our satisfaction aside for a second. Is this conclusion that you've reached, whatever it concludes or not, is that satisfying to the IG? Is the IG now done with his investigation?
Well, I'll let the IG speak for themselves. I'm not aware that the IG has taken this up as to
the
investigate.
review, sorry, that you've called it.
What I can tell you is, again, I cannot speak for the IG. As you know, they're an independent entity. What I can tell you is that the Office of the Legal Advisor kept the IG informed as they were working through the process, and it's our understanding that they're comfortable with the work that was done.
And then lastly, the technician, is there any punishment to him, or I think she's been referred to as her in the past, to her as a result of cutting the tape, not remembering who told her, not remembering any of the details regarding this?
No, there's nothing to punish anyone for.
Okay.
As I said at the outset, there was no policy prohibiting this kind of an edit. There is now, but there wasn't at the time. So there's no wrongdoing here that can be punished. James.
Can we stipulate in advance of my questions that in pursuing them, I can be absolved of any charges of solipsism or self-centeredness?
You'll have to define solipsism.
Believing that oneself is the center of the universe. I just happen
I
to be...
would never think that of you.
Thank you. I'm glad to have that on the record. First of all, so that we are clear, what you are telling us is that some unknown person called this technician to request that an edit that had in fact already been made by some unknown force be made again?
What I'm saying is, James, we do not know. We have we have the technician who has recalled getting a phone call to make an edit to the video. And the technician stands by the recollections of that day.
But the
But
edit
it's
had already
unclear.
been made.
Well, it's unclear. Again, 18 minutes after the briefing, we know that the video uploaded, to the version that was uploaded to be used on YouTube and our website, was shortened by the same amount of the cut. Now, it's unclear how it got shortened. It's unclear whether that was the result of an electrical malfunction or it was the result of a deliberate, physical, intentional.
It is the edit we've all
edit.
seen.
It is.
Okay, and
What
so
was inserted, the technician did remember getting a phone call, did remember inserting a white flash to indicate that video footage had been missing. So we know, and the white flash is very clear evidence, as I said, of human involvement in the process. But we're dealing with recollections and memories that are 2.5 years ago. And I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So, I mean, you have to allow for some of that here. And that's why it's inconclusive. I'm not at all standing up here telling you that I'm confident that to phrase it your way, that that a call was made to make an edit that had already been done. I just don't know that that's what happened.
what is the time gap between the uploading of the video and the time when this technician recalls that call having come in?
Let me see if I can find that for you.
And does the video automatically upload to the website?
No, it doesn't.
So it's possible that someone could have done the edit before it was uploaded.
Hang on a second, Ross. I'm trying to answer one question at a time here. Look, James, I just don't have that level of detail.
You said it's quite some time, weeks, months, a year. What do we think it was?
No, it's usually, it can take up to a day to get the press briefings, uploaded online. It just depends. And so I just don't have that level of detail here.
In arriving at the conclusion that you're unable to make a conclusion as to whether nefarious intent was involved here, it seems that nobody has taken into that assessment the actual content of the briefing that was actually erased or wound up missing. And so I want to ask you point blank, doesn't the content of the missing 8 minutes tell us something about the intent? It just happens to be, in fact, the one time in the history of this administration where a spokesperson stood at that podium and made statements that many, many people across the ideological spectrum have interpreted as a concession that the State Department will from time to time lie to preserve the secrecy of secret negotiations. That coincidence doesn't strike you as reflective of some intent here?
Again, James, 2 points. First of all, the results of the work that we did are inconclusive as to why there was an edit to that day's press briefing. I wish I could tell you exactly why and what happened. But hang on, please. But I don't know. Certainly there was, as we work through this, I mean, everybody's mindful of the content of the Q&A that was missing from the video. I think we were all cognizant of that Q&A. I can go back certainly and look, but it's my understanding that the content, the issue about the content, had been discussed in previous briefings. It wasn't the first time that particular content had been discussed. Number two, as I said, it was always available in its entirety on Divots, and it was always available in the transcript. So if somebody was deliberately trying to excise out the Q&A regarding that content, it would be a pretty ham-fisted and sloppy approach to do it, because the transcript was never not complete, and the Divots video was always complete, and there were, hang on a second, and there was media coverage that day regarding that exchange, right? And so,
well.
I'm sure you do. So it wasn't as if the content inside that 8 minutes or so was not available to the public immediately that afternoon.
Two final areas here, and I will yield. I appreciate your patience. Nothing in what you've said so far today suggests that the contents of this investigation or its conclusions would be classified. And so when you tell us that the report done by the Office of the Legal Advisor is going to be shared not only with the Secretary but with members of Congress, what is it that prevents you from sharing that full report with the public?
Nothing, and we have we intend to make sure that you get access to it. We're still working through logistics for that, but nothing precludes that.
And we look forward to a timetable when you can make it public. Lastly, did the Office of the Legal Advisor arrive in the course of this review at any conclusion as to whether this video itself constitutes a federal record?
Well, again, as I said in my opening statement, we're working now with the National Archives and Records Administration to take a look at what I've called disposition schedules, the rules governing what is and what is not considered a public record. But at the time, and as of today, the transcript is considered a permanent record, official record of these daily briefings.
So the answer to my question is the Office of the Legal Advisor did not make any determination as to whether this video constitutes a federal record, yes or no?
No, and that wasn't their, first of all, James, that wasn't their task. Their task was to try to find out what happened, and B, it's not up to the Office of the Legal Advisor to determine what is or what isn't a permanent official record. That's determined by NARA, and that's why we're consulting with them right now.
The videotape in question was shot with a State Department camera, correct?
Yes.
It was uploaded to the State Department website by a State Department technician, correct?
Yes.
The State Department website is maintained by State Department employees, correct?
Yes.
This video on the State Department website is in a separate place on the website from the transcript, correct?
Yes.
One has to push a different button to access the video from the button that one pushes to access the transcript, correct?
That's my understanding.
I have no further questions.
Okay, I have one question just to make sure.
It sounds like a federal record to me, John. It would be very counterintuitive. It would be very counterintuitive to imagine.
Let James talk.
It seems very counterintuitive to imagine that a videotape of a State Department briefing that is shot, uploaded, maintained by federal employees would not itself be a federal record, considered distinct and separate from the federal record that is the transcript, which is typed by separate employees and maintained on a separate place on the website.
So look, let me address that because it's a fair point. A couple of things. There's no requirement for us, no requirement, even today, to upload videos of this daily press briefing on my website, our website, or on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We do that as a courtesy. But there's no requirement to do that. And that's one. Number two, the entire video was also streamed into the Divots program, which is a different channel. I'm not a technician, but it's a different, completely different channel, which is why Divots had it complete without any problems. And of course, the transcript is and we have considered the transcript as the official record of these daily briefings. And we consulted NARA at the outset of this process. And they concurred that in their view, the transcript is an official record of these daily briefings. But they're also willing to talk with us about going forward whether or not we need to take a look at those disposition schedules to see if that definition needs to be expanded to include videos. So, James, we actually asked ourselves the very same questions you just interrogated me on. And we're working, and I mean that in a,
But not with the same panache.
No, of course. Not with the same self-centeredness. But honestly, we asked ourselves the same questions. In fact, we still are, James. And so we're working with the National Archives on this, and we'll see where that goes.
So let me get this straight. If the Divots video was the same, shot by the same camera, it's the same thing, and it had no problems, I'm having trouble understanding why you would assume and conclude that it's so possible that your version would have some technical glitch that needed to be edited. I thought we got past it was a technical glitch line. I'm really surprised to see that back in the narrative, because if their version's clean, why?
It's a different, first of all, it's a different
It would
system.
be highly unlikely, John, that there would just be some minor problem on your end it seems implausible and not worth mentioning as a defense.
Justin, look, I'm not going to dispute the confusion that you're having over this. I can tell you, as I said, we would have all preferred that there was some clear, convincing evidence of exactly what happened, but there isn't. I can't make it up. I can't just pull out of thin air an exact reason for what happened.
Well,
So because I can't, and because the Office of the Legal Advisor couldn't, based on interviews, based on looking at documentary evidence, we can't rule out the fact that there were some server problems that we were having around that time. I can't tell you with specificity that it was on that day and at that hour, but we were having some problems, and it's not out of the realm of the possible that the white flash was inserted rather for nefarious purposes, but more to indicate that there was some missing footage, and we wanted to make that obvious.
All the evidence. Who would come to the technician 18 minutes after the briefing and say, I noticed that there was a technical glitch, telling the technician there was a technical problem? It just doesn't seem.
This technician is not. This technician does not work in the office that typically edits the daily briefings. Look, Justin, I can't possibly.
It was someone within public affairs, not in the technician's office, who instructed the change be made. That's what you guys have said. And the idea that that person
We've said that
would
that is
have
what this
noticed
individual recalled.
would have some knowledge of a technical glitch that the technician needed to be instructed on. All of it seems totally implausible. That's not a question.
Okay, but all I can say to you is I can't answer the question you're asking. We have tried to answer the question you're asking, and we have spent many months now working on it, and it's the results are inconclusive in that regard. I can't change that fact, and that is a fact.
I just have a clarification point, just real quick.
Hang on just a second. Hang on just a second.
One quick. Yeah, mine's a minor point too.
One thing, from another person, other than the immediate group there. We've jumped around this issue and
Are you
around it.
separate from the media group here?
I'm different from
Said
the
immediate.
immediate group
Oh, the
up there.
immediate group.
So this sounds like a very thorough internal probe. More than 24 people interviewed. Did the probe identify who from public affairs made the call requesting the change? Yes or no?
No,
Was it unable to do it?
unable to do that.
Can you just remind me, I just need to clarify these things. The request to the technician was to do what? I recalled it was to cut the tape.
The technician recalls getting a phone call
Yes.
from somebody in public affairs to edit the video. That is still the memory of the technician, and that's reflected in the review.
So why did so what did they edit if it was already, if this section of the tape was already missing, what did that technician actually do?
The technician remembers getting the phone call and inserting a white flash to mark the fact that the video had been shortened.
So the request was to edit the video, and then the technician decided upon herself to insert a white flash as a transparency flasher or
The
something?
technician recalled inserting the white flash so that it was obvious that a cut had been made.
But the request wasn't to insert a white flash. The request was
Again,
to cut the video,
Again,
wasn't it?
I'm not disputing that. That is
So
what the
Why
technician
did
remembers
this
getting a call.
very
Hang on,
obedient
hang
and
on.
forgetful technician
Hang on.
suddenly decide they were going to insert white
The
flashes?
technician remembers getting a call to edit the video, has recalled and come forward and said that that edit was made and that a white flash was inserted. I can't. I'm not at all, and we're not disputing the recollections. As I said at the outset, in working through this, additional information came to light, which also forces us to consider the possibility that there might have been a technical problem here that truncated, shortened some of that video since so shortly after the briefing, 18 minutes, which is much faster than we typically get to compiling this and posting it on a normal day, happened. So nobody's challenging the account, but it's because we have additional information that we've now uncovered that makes it inconclusive on our part.
I just have two more questions. One, did the technician indicate where she came up with the white flash idea? Was that just being really enterprising?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on this.
And
As
then-
I understand it,
Or was
so
that
I've
the-
been told that is
Yeah.
not an unusual
Okay.
procedure for making a deliberate
Okay.
cut and to make it obvious. But I'm not an expert.
Why did nobody in your entire apparatus think of using the good tape that was sent to the divots and just using that?
I don't have an answer for you on that. Again, it was always available on divots, and I wasn't here at the time, so I don't know how much visibility there was above the technician level on this and that technician supervisor. I just don't know.
But if the white light was meant as some sort of effort at transparency, one, you would have said something, probably indicated somewhere when you posted it, missing tape, no? Not let people hopefully see a white light and divine what that means.
I can't go back.
Secondly, wouldn't you just use the good tape and just
Brad,
put it in?
I can't go back 2.5 years here
Well, yeah,
and
but-
try to get in the heads
Yeah,
of
but you've
people
raised
that.
this like
but-
spectral theory that maybe everybody did everything perfectly and we just misinterpreted it.
No, I did not, and I never called it a spectral theory. Okay, what I'm saying is I can't go back 2.5 years and try to relitigate the decision making. The technician remembers getting a call, making a cut, inserting a white flash, talking to the supervisor about it. Conversations that happened above that level, I simply can't speak to because I don't know. And it would be great if we could, go back and rewrite the whole history on this, but we can't do that. All I can do is learn from this and move on. And now we have a policy in place that no such edits can happen without my express permission and approval before it happens. And as I said, there was no policy at the time against this kind of thing, so there's no wrongdoing. Are we done on the video?
No, I have one more. Just to wrap this up, because you just said that edits cannot be made without your express knowledge and consent. What is the workflow now for recording these videos of these briefings and other events and uploading them to the website? What is the basic workflow?
The workflow hasn't changed. The workflow is it's the same procedure that's been used in the past. And again, I'm not an expert on the way our technicians, who are very professional and very competent, do their jobs. I didn't change anything about the process except to insert a rule that there will be no editing of press briefing videos without my express consent and approval beforehand. But I did not change the process.
That's understood, but I will say, as someone with 24 years in news, television news, there's always another pair of eyes looking at what someone does in terms of work. And so I'm asking, one, once you record a video, now that everything is digital, it's pretty easy to upload things pretty quickly. You don't need 24 hours. Number two, if you are uploading something, there's going to be someone in the process, a media manager, a producer, an editor, who's going to verify that the work was done and that the work didn't have any technical glitches. Who is checking up on the work of the technician, or is the technician simply working and ticks off a box, I've done this task, and moves on?
There is a process that supervisory personnel are involved in. I don't have the exact flow chart for you here today, but I'm comfortable that the process works, and it works every day. It's going to work today. It worked yesterday, and it worked the days before that. I'm not worried about that. I think everybody understands our obligations and our responsibilities. I can't speak for the specifics in this digital environment. Again, I'm not a technician. I'm not an expert at this. But I'm comfortable that our staff is competent and trained, have the resources available to do this in a professional way, and that they'll continue to do that.
Just a few last ones. Thank you very much, John. Do you stand by the statements you made when you first started briefing on this particular subject, that this entire episode reflects a failing to meet your usual standards for transparency?
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, we don't know exactly what happened here, but but obviously we would never condone an intent to conceal if that's in fact what happened. Now, again, I can't say that that happened, but if it did, then yes, obviously that would not meet our standards. And frankly, and if I might add, it didn't meet the standards of my predecessors either. Jen Psaki, Marie Harf, Victoria Newland, none of them would ever abide by any kind of intent to conceal information from a daily briefing.
The reason I ask is because when you started briefing on this subject in May, you told us that this wasn't a glitch, that it was an intentional and deliberate erasure. Now, following the investigation by the Office of Legal Advisor, you seem to be retracting that and saying we honestly can't say one way or the other. And so if your previous comments were to the effect that this represented a failing of transparency, I wonder if you would like an opportunity to retract those as well.
I said at the time that it was a deliberate intent to edit, and I said it again today. I mean, obviously there's human involvement here.
Okay.
So we know that there was a deliberate edit to the video. What I can't say, based on the work now that they've done, is why that occurred. But James, if it was, and we may never know, right? But if it was an intent to conceal information from the public, that's clearly inappropriate.
You mentioned that more than 30 employees were interviewed as part of this process. Were those interviews recorded or transcribed?
I don't know.
You stated that those 30 employees ranged the gamut of seniority. Are we to interpret that remark as an indication that the Secretary himself was interviewed?
The Secretary was not interviewed for this.
To your knowledge, did any of the people who were interviewed have counsel with them while they were interviewed?
I don't know. I'd have to consult the Office of Legal Advisor for that.
To your knowledge, did anyone refuse to take part in the investigation or be
I
interviewed?
know of no refusals. In
Thank you.
fact, the Office of Legal Advisor made very clear that they were very grateful and appreciative of the support that they got from people that work in public affairs today and people that have worked in public affairs in the past.
Judicial Watch is
Afghanistan?
for the investigation papers. Are you aware of that? Do you have any
I've seen
comment?
press reports on that. I don't have a comment on that. Sure.
I think Carol has a
Actually,
question.
I'd like to just ask one more question about the tape.
And then we go to
John,
Syria.
how confident are you that the 30-plus people who answered these questions were truthful? Did you, at least to the best of their knowledge and the best of their memory, did you ask
Well, look,
any
I
of them
didn't
to
conduct.
take lie detector tests?
I didn't conduct these interviews, Carol. I wanted this from the outset. I wanted an independent look at this, and that's why in the preliminary review I asked the Office of Legal Advisor to take this on, and that's why the Secretary followed up and asked them to dig deeper into it so that it was outside my bureau and outside of my purview. I got you. Hang on just a second. I'll come to you. So I didn't get involved in that. As I said to my answer to James, the Legal Advisor's Office felt very, very comfortable and confident that they had gotten all the support that they needed and cooperation that they needed. And I know of no instance in which they thought or felt in any way that anyone they spoke to was being less than completely candid and honest with them.
Syria. Please, Syria.
Afghanistan.
Let's go to Afghanistan.